mortality of child and mother at birth. Currently, that has risen, where there is a rise in the death. Speaker, I support the statements.
Very well, Deputy Minority Whip and Nairobi Senator Sifuna.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Speaker, as you know, as a Secretary General of the Orange Democratic Movement Party, I am the patron of a program in the party that we call...
So, you know, in my records, I recognize you as the Deputy Minority Whip.
Yes, there's a story.
You have many titles, you know.
Speaker, there's a story I was trying to tell you, and please freeze my time. As SG of ODM, I'm the patron of a program called He for She at the party, which is a program that is meant to allow or encourage women in ODM to participate in politics. I'm very proud to report, Senator Veronica, that last time we were able to have conversations with an organization called Westminster Foundation, and out of that conversation, Honorable Speaker, we were able to get funding for women aspirants in the 290 constituencies to pay for their registration fees and even the nomination fees, Honorable Speaker. And this is part of the program we were undertaking in order to remove some of the obstacles for women in leadership. Honorable Speaker, the statement by Kewosa is reminding us that the International Day of Women is falling on the 8th of this month, which is Sunday. And that date, Senator Wakobubi, is significant because, again, as SG of ODM, I know that on the 7th of this month, we are expecting a final comprehensive report on the implementation of the 10-point agenda signed between Raila Odinga and the Honorable President William Ruto. It is not by coincidence, Honorable Speaker. I have given you that story of what ODM has tried to do in order to enhance participation of women in politics. It is not coincidence, and the women in this House must listen to this. It is not coincidence that the first point in the 10-point agenda is implementation of the 2/3 gender rule. Baba made it clear in that document, Honorable Speaker, that we have spoken about this issue of women in leadership and the 2/3 gender rule for too long. And he said, if you read that MOU, and I know it offered because, as you know, I'm the one who wrote it, he says that we must now establish a framework to ensure its implementation. What the women of this country will be expecting on the 7th when we receive the final implementation report is to see that framework that has been put in place by the committee implementing this particular agenda number 1. I want to speak on behalf of the women of this country because I am a son to a woman, I am a father to a young girl. So I want to speak on their behalf and say, those who are arguing that the 10-point agenda was a long-term agenda that will take 15 years. The women of Kenya are tired of waiting for the implementation of the 2/3 agenda. I want to make it clear that on Saturday, we are expecting a framework for implementation, not stories, not stories. And the women of this country will bear me witness, Honorable Speaker, that if there exists such a framework for the implementation of the 2/3 gender rule, you don't need to be told by an expert. All of us will be able to see that a framework has been put in place. So I want to tell my deputy in the party, the Honorable Agnes Zani, who's the chair of that implementation committee, women will not accept, the women of Kenya will not accept stories on the 7th. No extension of deadline. Give us the framework that was committed to by the President and the late Raila Amolo Odinga. I thank you, Honorable Speaker. We want action in accordance with the theme of this year's celebration. Asante sana for reminding me that.
Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed Faki.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii. Kwanza ningependa kuunga mkono taarifa iliyoletwa na Seneta Murango wa Kirinyaga. Mheshimiwa Spika, hizi kanuni husika ambazo ziliongeza bei ya maji katika maeneo ya Kirinyaga County ni kanuni ambazo hazikuletwa katika bunge hili. Mara nyingi kuna kanuni tofauti ambazo zinachapishwa, na hizi nafikiri zilipelekwa katika assembly ya mabunge la county ya Kirinyaga ambako zilijadiliwa na kupitishwa ikawa ni sheria. Hata hivyo, Mheshimiwa Spika, sisi kama bunge la Senate tuna jukumu la kuita wahusika ambao ni watu wa mamlaka ya rasilimali za maji, WARMA, vile vile assembly ama bunge la county, kamati husika katika bunge la county ya Kirinyaga, na vile vile pia waziri anayehusika na masuala ya maji ya magavana wa county ya Kirinyaga. Na kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, hili tutaweza kulifuatilia na tuhakikishe kwamba masuala haya maji yamepunguzwa na wananchi wanapata maji bila ya matatizo. Mheshimiwa Spika, maji ni tatizo katika sehemu nyingi. Juzi siku ya Jumatatu nilipata fursa ya kutembea kaunti ya Kilifi. Nikaona shida kubwa ya maji. Kaunti ya Mombasa, Mheshimiwa Spika, wiki iliyopita nilifanya taarifa hapa kuhusiana na mambo ya maji na mambo ya umeme. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, bado Mombasa haipati maji ya kutosha. Kila ukiulizwa unaambiwa bomba limepasuka, maji yanapatikana kidogo, tunangoja mabwawa yajae ndio tuweze kugawanya maji. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa muda wa miezi 4 kaunti ya Mombasa hususan maeneo ya Changamwe hayapati maji ya kisawasawa. Mwisho Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kuhusiana na siku ya wanawake duniani ambayo itasherehekewa tarehe 8. Mheshimiwa Spika, japokuwa tunasherehekea siku hii tarehe 8, naunga mkono taarifa ya Seneta Wakabubi na taarifa ya Seneta Maina Veronica. Mheshimiwa Spika, japokuwa tunasherehekea siku hii siku ya Jumapili, bado Mheshimiwa Spika, yale matatizo mengi ambayo kina mama wanayapata bado yako Mheshimiwa Spika. Tukiangalia mambo ya maji bado ni tatizo, wengine bado wanakwenda hatua ndefu kutafuta kuni za kupikia Mheshimiwa Spika, wengine bado wananyimwa, wasichana wengi wananyimwa nafasi ya kusoma Mheshimiwa Spika, ili waweze kupata elimu na waweze kujitegemea katika maisha yao. Mheshimiwa Spika, haya yote bado ni changamoto ambazo wanazipata kina mama au wasichana wetu, wakati tumekuwa na katiba ambayo inazingatia usawa baina ya mwanamke na mwanamume. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa kumalizia ni kwamba ni lazima maseneta kupitia kwa Keosa kwa huu muhula ambao umebaki, wahakikisha kwamba wametembea katika kaunti zao, hata zile ambako pia hakuna maseneta wanawake, waweza kuzitembelea kaunti zile Mheshimiwa Spika, waangalie ni mambo gani ambao wanaweza kufanya ili kupunguza zile dhulma, vile vile matatizo ambao kina mama wanakuta katika kaunti hizi. Kwa sababu tukiangalia Mheshimiwa Spika, dhulma za vita, yani gender based violence, bado ziko na ziko katika kila kaunti. Hivi tunavyo
umefanya vizuri sana Seneta Faki, na naona imetosha. Kwa hivyo naomba tumsikize Seneta Wakabubi. Sekunde ngapi unaomba? Haya, malizia basi.
Kwa Mheshimiwa Spika, kwamba kwa huu muhula ambao umebaki wa bunge hili, maseneta wa Keosa, na ninaona pia wanafanya kazi nzuri. Tulipokuwa Busia walifanya kazi nzuri sana ya awareness. Tunasema warudi katika mashinani kule, na hata zile kaunti ambazo hazikubahatika kupata maseneta wanawake. Kuna hapa Nairobi kuna maseneta 4 wanawake ambao wanaweza kutembelea zile kaunti ambazo hazina. Mimi niko na wawili, Mheshimiwa Sige na Mheshimiwa Miraji, wanaweza kujigawanya pia wakaenda katika kaunti nyingine. Wahakikishe kwamba tumefanya miradi ama tumesukuma kaunti zetu kufanya miradi ambayo yanakwenda moja kwa moja kwa kina mama. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii.
Seneta Wakabubi Wakabubi Consolata.
Thank you, Speaker. Allow me to donate my time to Senator Tabitha Mutinda. Thank you.
Donate. If you have nothing to say, then we go to Senator Sosingolfli. Senator Sosingolfli. Because this was not, maybe you are not replying to a motion, so that you can donate to a time. That is when you have your minutes to donate. But now you cannot be able to donate. Senator Sos, if you're not ready, then we go to Senator Shakila.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to comment on 2 statements. First, the statement by the Senator of Kirinyaga on the issue of the various levies that are levied on water consumers. Mr. Speaker, this is a very serious issue because in my committee of CPIC, we deal with this matter of water service providers. And one of the challenges that we have seen is escalating cost of water, which is attributed to high tariffs. And high tariffs are attributed to unreasonable charges. We have a number of charges which are being charged on water. We have charges by WRA. We have charges by WASREB. And all these charges, Mr. Speaker, are quite unreasonable. And one wonders why the counties should be made to pay charges to sustain national regulatory bodies like WARMA and WASREB. I think this is a matter that the relevant committee must look at in depth so that we manage this problem that is becoming a major problem in this country. That organizations like WARMA, WASREB are heavily relying on regulatory fees that is targeting water water companies in our counties, Mr. Speaker, when they should actually be financed from the national exchequer, Mr. Speaker. So this statement is important, and I wish to encourage the committee to try and get as much information as possible. They can even consult my committee, which we have extensive information on the issues that have been highlighted in the statement. The second statement I wish to support is a statement by Senator Hezena on the issue of an individual who is exploiting the forests in Samburu, who is mining marams and doing all manner of things that are degrading the environment. Mr. Speaker, I wonder why Kenya Forest Service has allowed cartels and a couple of people to exploit our forest resources, even in places which ideally, like Samburu, Mr. Speaker, is a semi-arid area. Why would one be allowed to exploit forest resources in a semi-arid area like Samburu, Mr. Speaker? If anything, these forests must be protected from exploitation, Mr. Speaker. So that is another very important statement, Mr. Speaker, even as we are talking about climate change and we are talking about conservation of our forest, we must also rein in rogue people, some who even work under Kenya Forest Service to exploit our forest. So that statement is also very important. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, allow me to also congratulate the women for the
No, you know, so men are also around. So maybe, you know, honorable senators, we were to conclude the comments on statements. I'd given up to 4, but then I have 4 senators. I can see they have really been queuing to do this. Then I give just 2 minutes each to the 4 senators, starting with the Honorable Shakil Abdallah. 2 minutes.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, ninaomba kuchangia taarifa iliyoletwa na Mheshimiwa Hezena kuhusu mazingira. Mheshimiwa Spika, uhifadhi wa mazingira na misitu ni jukumu letu sote, lakini zaidi ni kwa wizara husika. Na ikiwa mfanyikazi ama kiongozi fulani wa wizara husika ndiye mfanyi biashara mkubwa wa biashara haramu ya kukata misitu na kuuza mbao na kuchimba maram, hiyo ni hatia kubwa sana na ni biashara haramu. Anafaa achukuliwe hatua za haraka za kidharura, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, akiendelea kuuza na maji ya bwawa ambayo kwamba ni maji ya kila mwananchi wa hiyo sehemu, anafaa itumike kwake, lakini yeye ameibeba ni kama maji yake na anaiuza kwa bei kali kwa wananchi. Mheshimiwa Spika, mazingira ni muhimu sana. Kama hata kule Lamu Boni Forest imemalizwa na wananchi kukatwa makaa. Na tunaomba serikali na wizara husika ichunguze hiyo maneno na ichukue hatua kwa wale wahusika wa biashara haramu kama hizo, ambazo kwamba zinaharibu mazingira na zinamaliza misitu katika nchi, ambayo ndio sasa tunaangalia tukiona mvua imepotea, hakuna mvua, kiangazi kimezidi, wanyama wanafariki, ni kwa sababu ya misitu kukosa kuhifadhiwa na kukatwa kiholela kwa biashara haramu zinazoendelea nchini. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, na nikiongezea maneno ya siku ya kina mama, nataka kuambia wanaume, kuinuka kwa mwanamke hakumaanishi ni kuanguka kwa mwanamume, bali ni kuinua ubinadamu. Kwa hivyo msiogope wanaume mkiona wanawake wanaendelea ama wanainuka, muwasupport na muwashike mkono na muwe nao pamoja, kwa sababu hatuko hapa.
Ningeomba kama unataka kuchangia mambo ya kina mama, siku ya kina mama, uanze na hiyo. Ndio usiombe muda baadaye ya kuchangia mambo ya kina mama. Unaipea fursa ya kwanza ama nafasi ya kwanza. Senator Okoiti Andrew wa Mtata.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for the opportunity to comment on the statements on the floor. I'll begin with the statement by Senator Hazena on the illegal mining activities. I condemn in the strongest terms possible that these activities are being done mainly by the government agencies, the people who have been charged with the responsibility to protect these assets. Because anybody going in there will not be allowed. So the scam is inside the ministry, and it needs to be addressed from inside, and those culpable to be taken to task. Because you cannot afford to have government agencies who are charged with protecting assets being the ones despoiling these assets. And so I strongly support that. And Kenya is generally a water-scarce country. We can hardly meet our water needs. And so playing around with water towers, playing around with minerals is not allowed by the law, and that law should be enforced. Let us have proper protection of the environment and our natural resources. I also would like to comment on the statement by Senator Kwabubi on the Women's Day. First of all, I want to thank her very much for having used the word gender principle and not the word gender rule. The word gender rule was smuggled into our legal framework by the Supreme Court of Kenya in a very, very shameful ruling that it made, and that has been the cause of confusion, that a principle was converted into a rule, and we've had a problem. The women problems in this country are tied even to access to things like energy. The other day in my constituency, in my county, I encountered very many women who had eye problems, sight problems. Their sights were failing. And when they were taken to the doctor, they were told that the cause was using firewood for cooking.
Okay. Senator Mutinda Tabina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me first appreciate my two colleagues, Senator Chair of KEWOSA, Senator Veronica, and also Wakwa Bubi, for these two great statements in regards to International Women's Day, and in advance wish all women a beautiful International Women's Day, and also congratulate all the women in this house who have really made it to this particular house on matters leadership. I continue to congratulate, and I continue to urge that we continue championing the issues of women, many that have been mentioned, the issues that we've been talking about in terms of matters FGM, early childhood marriages, that cut across very pertinent issues. But I want to state today, Mr. Speaker, As I've always said earlier, the girl child has been really so much empowered, something that we appreciate because we focus, but we've really left the boy child behind. I would love that the theme for Women's Day this time round to be how now to bring the boy child to that standard, because the boy child in the market today, in the space today, is not in a position to be able to reach the standard of the particular woman in the society who has really been very much empowered. And I want also to add that I had one of the senators, Senator Faki, talking about that as women senators, we need to move across the country. I want to state that we have been moving across different counties. Just last year, as we were closing the year, through the chair, we went to the great county of Busia. We did a lot. Even during the Senate Mashinani, we were able also to do a lot from our own personal initiatives and also supported by the Senate clerk. And quickly also to touch on Senator Hamida's statement in regards to this student of grade 10, Ms. Samira Ali, who had been denied his religional rights of wearing the hijab, Mr. Speaker. It is wrong. It's unconstitutional. There's freedom of worship. Sorry. And I think the PS categorically, PS Bitok, was able to state that this student should not be denied her rights to be able to attend school and also adhering to his religion requirements of wearing hijab. And I mean, we've been across schools.
Senator Kibwana Aminda Hali.
Asante Bwana Spika, yangu ni machache tu. Nataka kumpongeza Senator Veronica na Senator Koni kwa kuzungumzia, kwa kuleta mjadala ya mambo ya wanawake duniani. Kusema kweli, wanawake nitaweza kuanza kusema wanaweza. Na wameonyesha, na wamekaa kidete kuonyesha kuwa hata hapa kwenye seneti kuwa tunaweza. Nakumbuka hii KEWOSA tulipoanza, mimi nikiwa mwenyekiti, tulianza na wanawake kuwasaidia wale wafungwa walikuwa wamefungwa kwa miezi michache. Tuliweza kuwasaidia kuwatoa wamama wale walikuwa na watoto pia wachanga, na tuliweza kutoa wanawake karibu 180, na hiyo kusema kweli ilikuwa ni mafanikio makubwa kwa KEWOSA. Na kazi zingine pia, na nashukuru Senator Veronica kuwa ameendelea kuonyesha kuwa nafasi ya wanawake hapa seneti ni kubwa kwa KEWOSA na kwa kazi ile anaendelea nayo. Wanaume hapa Bwana Spika, wakikosa tu wanawake kidogo hapa seneti, huwa wanaanza kuwatafuta. Hii ni kuonyesha kuwa nafasi yetu wanawake hapa imekuwa, tumechukua nafasi kubwa. Kwa hivyo nashukuru, na hii mambo ya 2/3 Bwana Spika, ni kuwa nitasema bado iendelee, kwa sababu unaona nafasi ile wanawake wamechukua hapa seneti imekuwa kubwa. Na nakubaliana na Senator Faki kuwa sisi wanawake wale tuko kwenye delegates tuende mashinani kwenda kuwasaidiana na wanaume kwa constituency, kuweza kusaidiana kufanya kazi muhimu ya kujenga taifa. Tumejaribu sana wanawake hapa pia. Ukiangalia statement, ukiangalia bill kwa Kiswahili, Bwana Speaker, sijaweza kufafanua inaitwa nini, lakini kazi pia hapa kwa wanawake.
Last but not the least, Senator Tujo, as we now go to the next one.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I also rise to make a comment or two. First, on the statement by Senator Andrew Omtata, the Senator of Kenya from Busia County, on these recruitment agencies for jobs abroad, Mr. Speaker. This is a matter of national importance, and I'm particularly concerned that no less than the CS for Labor, Mr. Speaker, has led these recruitment drives. And I personally was able to finance some 2 young men who needed to get jobs as drivers, Mr. Speaker. And this was an opportunity that had been announced by the Ministry of Labor to this date, and that was 2024, the young men are yet to get any job, Mr. Speaker, in spite of the fact, or despite the fact that they spent huge amounts of money on medical tests and many other things, passports and everything, Mr. Speaker. So I think it's a matter that the committee should look into with a lot of seriousness, because we cannot afford people to actually carry out fraudulent recruitment with the blessings of the minister, Mr. Speaker. And I would wish that the CS would come before the committee and talk about that particular incident, Mr. Speaker, because we cannot exploit already suffering Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the statement by Senator Hamida Kibwana on a student who was not allowed to wear a hijab. We have the freedom of faith and religion in our constitution. And this is a matter that has been there before. I remember there was a case at Kenya High School one time. And the court ruled that students should be allowed to wear their religious outfits, Mr. Speaker, because schools cannot be allowed to have the power to regulate what religion students that join their schools will adhere to, Mr. Speaker. So I think this is a matter that needs to be made very clear, and the Minister for Education should also come in and remind the principals that they do not own these schools, and these schools must respect the freedom of worship for every other student. And Mr. Speaker, I want to believe.
Very well, that's the end of the statement, comments on statements. We'll go to the next on the clerk.
Order number 8, the Culture Bill, National Assembly Bills number 12 of 2024, resumption of second reading, resumption of debate interrupted on Wednesday, 4th March 2026, afternoon sitting.
This is the resumption of debate which was interrupted on Wednesday yesterday, and Senator Perez Tobiko, and a balance of 10 minutes. So you can proceed and prosecute your contribution.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I was contributing to the issue of the culture bill yesterday, I had mentioned a number of issues. Mr. Speaker, I was referring to the Maasai culture, and I said we have a very rich culture, Mr. Speaker, a culture that has transcended almost into the national sphere, Mr. Speaker, because many Kenyans right now are using the Maasai dress as a national dress, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I had also mentioned that the Maasai community has cultural events that are recognized by the United Nations. I mentioned one of them being Enkipata, where boys, as they prepare to be initiated into manhood, Mr. Speaker. It's a very huge event, Mr. Speaker, and has attracted a lot of attention worldwide. I had also mentioned, Mr. Speaker, that we have a UNOTO, which now the young Morans get transit into young adults, young elders, Mr. Speaker. And finally, we have another one called Olngesher, Mr. Speaker, where now the elders do retire into, if I may use the Swahili word, wazes, almost like retiring from active involvement in community issues apart from advisory, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, let me also mention that communities have common ancestry. And in that common ancestry, Mr. Speaker, it gives people a sense of identity, a sense of belonging. And Mr. Speaker, it also gives people a sense of pride, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the Ma community, and I believe also in many other communities in this country, we have clans. And clans are meant, as part of the order to organize the community in certain aspects. And Mr. Speaker, although at the moment, a number of people have used clans politically, but that should not be the case. Clans were meant, to organize the society so that you can marry from a certain clan. You cannot marry your sister or your brother from you within your clan, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, clans were meant to be able to assist when a member of the clan needs assistance, communal assistance, Mr. Speaker. And so we have very good cultures and traditions that needs to be protected. Of course, there are harmful traditions that we need to let go, Mr. Speaker. In this House, people have spoken about FGM. These are some of the things that are not helpful at all, and we must let go, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to tie my contribution to the issue of the International Women's Day, Mr. Speaker. And let me take it on the floor of this House and really be proud of my community, because we have come a long way, Mr. Speaker. The Ma community, Mr. Speaker, has given women a chance in leadership. It is viewed as one of the very conservative communities. But I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, as conservative as we are, our men, our women, our young people have respected their women leaders. Mr. Speaker, the Ma community today can pride itself as a community that has elected women in single constituencies, Mr. Speaker. Not just for the women representative seats, Mr. Speaker. In fact, today, Mr. Speaker, if you tell me to go for the women representative seat, I will not go for it. Because yes, I will not. Because my community has given me a chance to contest against men in a constituency, and I have won. Not once, not twice, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, and after my election, being the first who was elected, the Maasai community has elected 3 other women. Naisula Lesuda in Samburu West, Sarah Lekorere in Laikipia North, and Agnes Pareyo in Narok North, the seat that used to be held by the Maasai kingpin, Mzee Olendimama. I mean, the Maasai community has moved and made strides in terms of giving women an opportunity, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, when I hear people say, oh, you know, Maasai women cannot elect a woman governor, who said that? My community has been electing women, and they will elect women governors. They will elect a woman president. You know, they value their women, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me also take this opportunity to correct a notion that has been there, in the Kenyan society about our culture. You know, I hear people, since the time I was in school, since actually high school, I used to hear people say, oh, you know, you Maasai women, when a man comes to put the spear outside, then now you belong to every man who brings a spear. That's not true. That's not true, Mr. Speaker. This culture was meant to give a visitor, you know, his position in society. You will identify, Senator Cherargei, that your age mates, when you come to the community, you'll ask about your age mates. Then you'll be shown that's a house of your age mates. Not to go and take his wife, but so that you are given accommodation, you're given food. No, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, let people not try to explain traditions and cultures that they don't know. Mr. Speaker, that is why in my community we don't have street children, because everyone gets accommodated in the society. That's even the poor. You will not meet a Maasai poor man or woman in the street, because we have a way of taking care of our own. We take care of our poor, we take care of our young, we take care of each other in the categorizations that society has given to accommodate everybody. We take care of a visitor when you come, because we will place you somewhere. Mr. Speaker, I seek to support. Thank you very much.
Very well. I was really enjoying that Maasai culture and what women do. When I thought you would be asking for some more time, I was tempted even to give you more time to listen to that story. But then let's now listen to Senator Maina Veronica.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me a chance to speak into this very interesting bill, the Culture Bill 2024. And I want to really thank the originator of this bill. I see it initially came from the National Assembly and now has been adopted by our majority leader. I think it's a brilliant bill. I am even actually surprised that it took us this long to draft this Culture Bill 2024. Honorable Speaker, I am surprised because if there is anything that Kenya would have needed even before this bill was enacted, this would have been the bill that we would have needed. And why do I say so? Because, Honorable Speaker, if you look at Kenyans, they are very proud of their cultures. We disagree on certain things about how we deal with the tribes, but every grouping is very, very proud of their culture. And Mr. Speaker, using this bill, if we had the geniuses who have drafted this bill, the same genius should show Kenyans how we can draw some economy out of this bill. Because if there is something we have not utilized in this country, it's the beauty of the cultures that are in Kenya. Honorable Speaker, if I could remind you, and to avoid being too selfish, because I'll come back to the Kikuyu culture, let me begin with the Turkana culture. And I want to thank the Senate for having the program called Senate Mashinani, because that Senate Mashinani program made me get to Turkana County, where I came face to face with the beautiful culture of the Turkana people. Honorable Speaker, if you remember the dances that we saw in Turkana, and I was amazed by the dress code that we had in Turkana, and I believe you are one of the people who are dressed with the regalia from Turkana, which was so beautiful inside the county assembly that I loved the belt, I loved the attire, the beading that was on that attire. It would be very shameful, Honorable Speaker, if such a dress, the Turkana dress, is faced out until our children are not able to see the dress that has emanated from the Turkana people. Honorable Speaker, the dances that were produced in Turkana, I later learned when I inquired that they always win the music competition in the whole of the Republic. And it brings out such a beauty, the beading that is done by the Turkana women, Honorable Speaker. I do not even think Turkana beads and necklaces should be compared to any of these beads and necklaces we get from the top shops in New York or in London. I think Turkana would have a much more superior brand than what we receive out there in the Fifth Avenue styles and fashions or Paris styles and fashion. And when we come down to the Maasai culture, we still find the same beading culture, weaving, Honorable Speaker. 2 years ago, or 1.5 years ago, I had the great opportunity in Murang'a County to support the women that do the kiondo in Murang'a, the older women who are weaving the kiondo and who are making sure that the kiondo has not become extinct or has not been taken away by the Chinese. Look at the kind of art that these women come up with and see the baskets that they are weaving, Honorable Speaker, there would be no reason in Republic of Kenya to even have one single supermarket selling a paper bag to any Kenyan. Ideally, all of us should use that basket, Honorable Speaker, which we gathered about 2,000 women who had weaved very beautiful baskets with all kind of tapestry, Honorable Speaker, and made very superior baskets to what we see as paper bags being sold, even plastic paper bags that are being sold in the supermarket. So it's high time, Honorable Speaker, that we made use of this bill to ensure that the culture, the art, the language, the beauty of everything that has come around ecological space, geographical space, the common ancestry that has been defined as the community is utilized towards making sure that our culture pays back for the richness that it has displayed in terms of beauty, in terms of uniqueness, in the giftings that God has given to different African people to be able to manifest such gifts and such a rich culture. Honorable Speaker, we are aware that we have had tourism supported just by tourists coming, international tourists coming to see who are the Maasai people. What is the Maasai culture? How do they live? How does a Manyata look like? How does a Dingira look like, Honorable Speaker? I believe with this legislation, we should be able to support existence of a culture that is strong, a culture that is respectful, and a culture that makes a difference to the livelihoods of the people within our continent and even within our nation. Honorable Speaker, it is a sheer pleasure for me to read the interpretation section of this bill. That is in section 2 of this bill. And it provides this. Art means the physical manifestation of the internal creative impulse influenced by culture and expressed in the forms of literature, performing arts, culinary arts, media arts, or visual arts. And then, Honorable Speaker, it goes down to say cultural property means property which on religious or secular grounds is specifically designated as being of importance for archaeology, prehistory, history, literature, art, or science, and which belongs to the following categories: rare collections, products of archaeological excavations, elements of artistic or historical monuments, buildings and architectural designs, objects of ethnological interest, original works of art and engravings, rare manuscripts, archives, articles of furniture, and musical instruments. And it has also defined cultural heritage and defined it as tangible cultural heritage, including movable cultural heritage, immovable cultural heritage, and underwater cultural heritage. Maybe, Honorable Speaker, this bill is going to put sense in all of us to know that there shouldn't be much progress or any achievement in condemning buildings that are so old sometimes and that carry the history of a people. So that, Honorable Speaker, we must retain certain artifacts, certain buildings, certain architectural designs, the way you see it in Rome. When you go to Rome today, Honorable Speaker, there are certain architectural designs you will find today. And when you are given the date of that building, you will be wondering how the men of old and how those architectural designers of those age managed, Honorable Speaker, managed to sustain and even design a building to a level which can compete effectively today with our current architecture. And maybe culture is a way that we will also discover God in the creation. Because when you see what was designed in Rome, maybe 200 or 300 years ago, you will be shocked to compare the architects in those days and the architects in today's world. And that is when you'll be able to see clearly God had really given them a gifting, and that gifting could even have been more superior than what we have today. And hence the need for us to preserve the cultures and the architectural facts to prove that nature can gift human beings in such a marvelous way, Honorable Speaker. And we know, Honorable Speaker, if we allow the destruction of this cultural heritage and cultural artifacts, we will never be able to glance into the history of the past. And I remember, Honorable Speaker, a visit we made to the Danish Parliament, Honorable Speaker, and there was a painting on the wall which was shown and could not be removed, Honorable Speaker. When we were given the story of the painter who did that building, we were told that the painter, when he was asked to paint the Parliament then, he gave one condition, that as long as they accepted that that painting would not be removed from Parliament, and they signed a contract to that effect. And because they understand contractual obligations, he proceeded to paint. Unfortunately, what he did, he went and painted little snails, little snakes, little frogs, little animals who are not necessarily very interesting animals. When they came around to inspect the building, they noticed in the painting there were snakes, animals, and when he was questioned why he had done that, and they wanted to withdraw the contract, he said, because the people who work in this building are very much like the animals I have painted on this wall. And because you signed a contract, you cannot remove the snails, you cannot remove the snakes, and that stands as evidence of the work, the artwork that was done many thousand years ago, hundreds of years ago in the Danish Parliament, Honorable Speaker. And it shows the creativity that was then there, and the comparison, the literature of how that artist compared politicians to then, over 300 years ago, and how they compare today. Honorable Speaker, I want to congratulate the mover of this bill, Honorable Speaker, because of the genius that is in this bill. And I want to say this about the Republic of Kenya. There are many cultures. Every time I attend a Rorashio function in Kikuyu land, it amazes me the dress code that is worn, the instructions that are given to the young man and the lady who is getting married, the kind of rituals or rites that they go through over that season or over that function, Honorable Speaker, speaking into the past. And I would want to single out one culture that we need to emulate and even retain within our republic, Honorable Speaker. The African culture came with a lot of honor. One of the things that I have not seen emulated in this bill or restated in this bill is the culture of honor. If you could ask me one item that I would want retained and protected by this bill, for me I would say, for the young people and the older, even the older people, we need to find a way of amending this bill to say we want to retain a culture of honor. Because we know the African culture had this tradition. They honored the elders, and the elders knew their place, and they did the right thing. They gave them so much honor that long time ago, Honorable Speaker, when I was very young, if I boarded a matatu and I had a seat, and an older person walked in and could not manage to hold themselves to that, you remember that place we used to hold? Honorable Speaker, I would cede my seat to the older person to take up that seat. That culture of honor, unfortunately, is gone. You will find a pregnant woman queuing somewhere. She's the last in the queue, and nobody is giving her that culture of honor to give her precedence in that queue. If there is a way we can introduce that specific clause so that we can say it's official, let's retain the culture of honor, let's retain cultures that are useful to the people of Kenya, I would believe it would be the right thing to do so that we are able to tell the world that if you want to understand the culture of honor, even honor to our elders, honor to authority, honor to the schools, Honorable Speaker, if we retained that culture, you would have fewer schools burning. You would have fewer older people complaining about their children and their young ones. You would have less fights in the families because the pecking order would be very clear. So, Honorable Speaker, I also want to speak about cultures that are harmful. In this day and time, when we are just about to celebrate the International Women's Day, we must also admit there are some cultures within African setup which are very harmful. Maybe we need to mention the FGM, female genital mutilation, cultures that are harmful, cultures that put women in jeopardy, cultures that are grievous, cultures of hurting women and children. Those are not even cultures. Those are acquired behaviors that have gone overboard, Honorable Speaker. And we want to say any culture, even the one I hear people saying wife beating, and Honorable Senator Okia Omutata could give us more light into this, that some cultures somewhere within the Republic of Kenya, they say to prove that you love your wife, you have to slap her or beat her or do something like that. Those are cultures that are not acceptable, and nobody should vent such a culture in the name of this cultural bill. So this cultural bill should define the do's and the don'ts. And any culture that demeans, indignifies, any culture that pushes women to the corner, that is not acceptable, and we will not allow anyone to trend it as African culture. Let me remember this lady in Kisiland who went for the funeral of the husband whom they had separated with. And she did an honorable thing to take her children to go and give the father of these children a befitting final rites. She went there, and when she got there, somebody insisted that she had to fulfill a certain culture of throwing soil into the grave. And when she declined to do that, you remember the videos that circulated. She was chased into the bush. She was beaten up. I think they almost wanted to bury her. The chiefs were there. The administration was there. The church was there. It was a very shameful, shameful culture to purport to perpetuate. So we want to say, when this bill is enacted, we do not want to hear cultures that are oppressive to women, cultures that will not indignify women, being vended that this is how women should behave, or this is how women should act. And we are not refusing cultures that are correct, cultures that are good. We want to bring out the art. And we want to also tell the international community, if you want to know where the first human being was discovered, it's in the Republic of Kenya, in Turkana County. So if you haven't visited Kenya, you are yet to see where your forefathers came from. And we welcome you to Kenya, a country with rich culture, a country with lovely people, a country with warmth of hospitality, best cuisines within the African continent, the gateway to East Africa, and the best nation to begin visiting in the continent of Africa. This is where you find the blend of African culture in all its beauty, elegance, warmth, hospitality, and a welcoming spirit. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to support this bill and to ask the mover of this bill to ensure that we have entrenched the culture of honor so that our country can go to a different level and we can protect the good that is in the African culture and discard anything that is retrogressive. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Next is Senator Okwaiti Andrew from Tata.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for the opportunity yet again to contribute to this bill on culture. It is an important bill, and I congratulate the sponsor of the bill. However, I would pray that the bill be expanded to the modern days. Culture is the way people give meaning, the way people understand their environment, the way people operate in their environment, the way people live. In my constituency, at Kakapel Hills, in Teso North, we have got the prehistoric cave paintings, the only ones that are been known in this part of the world, in those caves. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, when you go to that cave and you look at these prehistoric cave paintings, you will notice that the people are reproducing their way of life at the time. They were reproducing the animals, whatever they were doing at the time in those prehistoric days. They have got symbols that are yet to be deciphered that are in those rocks. And I want to look at that aspect of culture, not as an invitation to look at the past, but an invitation to engage with the present and to look at the future. Clearly, I want to look at science and technology as a core component of culture. Today, much as it's impressive to look at the past, to look at the traditional dances, to look at all those things, and traditional and indigenous knowledge, we need to embrace science and technology as the cornerstone of our culture today. When the people who come maybe 200 years from down the line will look at us, they must see in us the capacity to survive and to have engaged effectively in the global economy. Culture should not be a question of traditional dances, a question of traditional dress, or traditional food, and other museum pieces. Culture should go beyond the museum and embrace the modern world, the current challenges that we have. So what kind of culture are we going to endanger? Or to engender, or not to endanger, but to engender with this bill? I would pray that the bill goes beyond inviting us to look to the past and to look at how we are engaging with the modern day. It always hurts me. Much as I'm a playwright, I'm a published playwright, I've written many plays which are published, but I am not happy that other than the National Drama Festival, we do not have an equivalent that draws a similar attention in science and technology. I would like to see science and technology becoming the culture of this country, whereby we move away from magic and superstition and take on ourselves a culture of weights and measures, of prediction, of interrogation, of inquiry, so that we can carve ourselves a space in the modern world. I wouldn't celebrate Majimaji rebellion, where people say that bullets could turn into water when they do some dances. I would not celebrate that, because it resulted in their being crushed and killed. Culture should give us the capacity to produce those guns, to produce the capacity to master elements of nature and harness them in such a way that we solve our problems. So I would request that the sponsors of the bill expand it to make our understanding of ourselves, our engagement with the environment and whatever, not just an invitation to celebrate our past that may be glorified or not, but it must be an invitation to carve out a niche for ourselves in the global world of today. We must anchor science and technology at the center of our experience. When I look at the cave paintings in Kakapel, I look at the technology of making ink that can last all those generations. I look at the technology of painting that those prehistoric people had. So that in the absence of science and technology, of the modern challenges, of engaging with the modern challenges through science and technology, we might find that we are inviting ourselves to celebrate our past. But beyond telling us where we came from, may not be telling us where we are going. So, our culture today, Mr. Speaker, sir, is a culture where we are using smartphones, we are driving vehicles, we are doing kidney transplants, we are engaging in so many things that rely on science and technology. And unfortunately, of all those things, maybe 99% we consume without contributing to their production. As I look at the people who lived in the Kakapel Hills, when they painted their environment, what they were doing, how they were surviving, today, if I was to go on a hill and paint my experience for posterity, I might lack much to paint that is original in terms of my own experience. If I paint a smartphone, if I paint a pair of glasses, if I paint, whatever I paint, the science and the technology in those things will not be something I own. So I would love that this bill on culture, we expand the understanding of culture as being a way of engaging with our environment. The modern times, and if you have to look behind, we look at the past, we look at the past to learn about engaging with the future, about conquering the environment, about, or rather not even the word environment, maybe the better word would be ecology, about existing properly in our ecology. And so, Mr. Speaker, sir, I plead with the move of the bill to expand its scope, to revise it, important as it is. It's inviting us to look back without challenging us to look forward. As we look back, we must look forward. We must create a culture of producing what we consume. If you have to learn anything from the past societies, is that they were virtually not dependent on others. So consuming what we produce, our autonomy, our ability to manage our societies, our ability to engage and conquer our environment, and maybe to participate effectively in the ecologies that we find ourselves in, so that we don't look at culture as something that is caught in a time warp. Like we are looking at a movie of the past, or we are engaging in a play of the past. I would like to see that we create sustainable economies. We create a culture of rule of law, obeying the law, being stable. If we look at African traditional religions, and we are told that the purpose of morality was to create a ritually neutral society, a society that did not need rituals to survive, a society that could allow life to be transmitted, then we must come back and ask ourselves, how are we running our modern states? Is the Kenyan state, is the culture within the Kenyan state a culture that allows life to thrive, or is it a culture of death? What values are we imparting in our society, right from the school, the curriculum, and what have you, so that if we are able to develop a society whereby we want to make the rule of law supreme, we want to ensure that we can procreate and person life, then we must be beginning to engender a culture of consequences. And let us go, if we have to look into our traditional societies, let us look at what values there were and how we can borrow them for the modern world. But let us not look at our culture in terms of our past cultures and celebrate them just in terms of attire, in terms of music, and in terms of other things that we look at and wonder about. If it's going for indigenous knowledge, let us invest in that indigenous knowledge. Let us modernize it. Let us bring science to engage, science and technology, to engage with those hubs. And we are able to produce tablets and capsules. And we are able to produce measurements of dosage. What is the dosage for treating such and such a thing? Let us invest in research and development so that our cultures can be of value in the modern day. For museum pieces, we can have the museum pieces. You can have those ones for entertaining other people, for whatever it may be, to remember whatever it is. But let us bring in, Senator Maina spoke about the Kiondo as a product. Somebody in China looked at it, added a bit of science and technology, and began mass production and copyrighted it, and ran away with it using synthetic fiber. Can we do that? Can we get a place for science and technology in our cultural experience so that we can modernize our experience? What our forefathers engaged with, we can modernize it the way other people of the world have done, modernize their experience, infused science and technology, mainstreamed science and technology through research and development, and came up with cultural expressions or cultural expositions of a culture that is not an invitation to the past, but one that uses the past to move into the future, to challenge the future, and to try and conquer the future. Let our culture in Kenya be a culture of satellites. Let us have a culture of trying to be modern. And trying to be modern does not mean that what our forefathers did was not modern. It was modern in their days. Today we have got concepts like modern and postmodern and stuff like that. Let us also be able to engender that kind of experience, to live on earth as global citizens and mainstream a culture of production, a culture of manufacturing, a culture of value addition, a culture of proper banking. We move away from these Shylock banks and get banks that can help us invest and grow this economy. So the culture part for me is a big, big area. The bill has scratched the surface. And if it's a bill being done in the 21st century, like the way this one is being done, then it must be a bill that invites us to develop a culture that allows us to carry our weight in the global economy, in the global environment. Not a culture that invites us to live, to look at a past that is no longer relevant in our days, other than maybe the values, but whose material experience may not be relevant today. The fabrics of the past and what have you may not be relevant today. Let us proceed forward and be able to compete for our space with the Americans, the Europeans, the Arabs, the Persians, the Chinese, the indigenous peoples across the world, and many others, so that our nation which we pride as the cradle of mankind, can really thrive and be at par with any other country, with any other civilization. And civilizations come and go. No civilization is static. And we cannot try to argue that the Kenyan civilization is static and stuck in the post-colonial days. Kenya has a civilization of today and of tomorrow. Yesterday is gone. Let us borrow what is of value from yesterday, but let us know that the challenge to be on this earth is about today and tomorrow. And let us mainstream science, let us mainstream technology, let us invest heavily in research and development. And I would like that bill to provide for proper provisions of research and development into the past indigenous sets of knowledge and technologies, and see how we can benefit from them. If it is medical or whatever it is, let us see how we can benefit from them in the modern economy and use them like the Chinese have done and others in the Asian world have done with their indigenous knowledge, and been able to modernize even their medicine today. They package it in capsules, they package it in syrups, they package it in tablets with the clear dosage. They have got clear ways of diagnosing illnesses and what have you. Let us modernize our knowledge, let us modernize our experience, and let us create a modern Kenyan civilization that the ages who come after us will be proud of us. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, sir, I support the bill, and I pray that the response of the bill expands it to the modern era. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Okay. Senator Catherine Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to speak to this bill. Honorable Speaker, this is a very important bill for this country. It seeks to implement the requirement in Article 11 on culture. And Honorable Speaker, it's a bill that is long overdue, and a bill that is seriously required, because this is one function that is shared between the national government and county government, but one that parliaments since 2013 have ignored in terms of putting in place the legislative framework to implement the Article 11. Honorable Speaker, so I want to commend the mover of this bill, also to commend the fact that the bill recognizes that national government as well as county governments have a role in implementing matters relating to culture. Honorable Speaker, I would now not want to add on to what people have already said, but I want to speak to other aspects that may very well enrich this bill. And I hope the mover of the bill, who's not here today, maybe he can be given the answer, can consider adding in other things, other aspects that would ensure that the implementation of the law, when it eventually passes, will actually be meaningful. Otherwise, the bill would pass, will look like a good law that we passed, but we may not see the impact of this law a few years down the road. Honorable Speaker, Article 7 of the Constitution speaks about language. There is no way you can speak about culture without speaking about language. I would have wanted to see the mover of this bill provide something about language in the implementation of matters culture. Honorable Speaker, we have discussed here once the issue of getting vernacular languages to be taught in our schools. Those of us who call ourselves Kenyan and have by marriage gotten married to somebody in another tribe that speaks a different tribe, have children who, for a few of us, the children speak both languages. For many of us, because we use the easier, we take the easier route of communicating in Kiswahili or English, the children are not able to speak the vernaculars. Honorable Speaker, if you can't speak the vernaculars, you will never be able to appreciate the culture of the people, of your people. If I can use your example, assuming your daughter is not able to speak Kimeru, your daughter will not be able to have a good conversation with her grandmother or great-grandmother, who is herself the transmitter of the knowledge about the Meru people. So I would have wanted to see a few clauses implementing Article 7 and seeking to enforce the use of vernacular language. And Honorable Speaker, I have said before once that if we encouraged, even within Nairobi, to say we can have as many schools, one can teach up to 4 vernacular languages, another one, other languages, to ensure that our children, even the ones in the urban areas, have opportunity to be able to learn the vernaculars. And if they have the opportunity to learn the vernaculars, they will be able to appreciate the culture better. Honorable Speaker, culture also speaks to heritage. And the bill has spoken to matters heritage without going deeper to see how we can actually ensure that our culture and heritage is preserved. I would have liked to see a clause that speaks about museums and how we will invest in museums as a way of keeping the historical record of our culture and so on. Honorable Speaker, I would have recommended that the mover considers a fund being set up to actually link the history departments of our universities to the different communities, so that we can have the histories of the different communities being recorded and being kept. Speaker, you're not listening to me, you're being disrupted by the other speaker. I'm making a very important point here. Honorable Speaker, if we preserved how are we going to preserve our knowledge? Is it through traditional dances? No. We need an actual record. When you go to Asia, you actually go to places where you can see a record of this culture. We need to fund our history departments in the different universities to actually assist us to do that recording. And if you're talking about over 53 communities, some of them with, like the one I come from among the Luya, with 16 sub-communities, among the Kalenjins, a few more sub-communities, we will need a way of getting to support these communities to have a record of their cultural heritage put within museums, so that that culture is not just recorded for the community, so that a child going to any university can go to the library or can go to a museum and will be able to learn about the Turkana, about the Kikuyu, about the Maasai, and so on. Honorable Speaker, we don't resource our universities on research very well. This would be a good opportunity to support the universities to be able to do this kind of thing. Honorable Speaker, culture is not just about the dance and the dress. There are many other things, and if we choose to record, I foresee, for instance, I think the lady senators who I have spoken to will recall that last year I tried to recruit you so that we can all find the traditional women within our communities, to have a meeting with them so that they can tell us what sex education looked like in their communities. And why was I interested in getting to know what sex education looked like? This is because, Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Education has refused to allow sex education to be taught in our schools on the guise that this should be taught by parents, and it is something that should inherently be taught from the communities, or it should be taught by the church. Honorable Speaker, you and I know that that is not happening. So if we recorded to find out what sex education looked like among the Luo, among the Kikuyu, we will be able, picking from these communities, we will be able to construct a good curriculum that we can say, these are the key things we have picked from our own communities, which we would want to be taught to our children. And I would urge that our history departments, I go back to that, be facilitated to help us to do such recordings. Honorable Speaker, there is also the recording of our cultural medicine. I'd like to tell colleague Omtata that our culture was embedded in science. So science is not about future. Honorable Speaker, if I have a cold today, the other day I gave a colleague here who had a very bad cold, something called Mwonyi from Kakamega Forest. And
Senator Muma, are you a certified herbalist to dish out herbal?
Honorable Speaker, I'm not a certified herbalist, but I have always been given this Mwonyi, and it works. And it is not, it does not have to come through America or CDC for me to be treated by it. So we had science. It's just that that science has not been recorded. If we record it, we will be able to say, these were our medicines, this was the medicine for that, and it will help to enrich the research that we have in our medical schools. Honorable Speaker, if we recorded even recipe books, I will be able to tell you, Honorable Speaker, if you eat shirieto and ugali, you would love it. Right now, if I tell you what is shirieto, you will not tell me what shirieto is. Shirieto is a vegetable among the Luyas, a vegetable which is becoming extinct because we've decided to be modernized.
Senator,
we want to eat broccoli.
Senator Beatrice, what's your intervention?
Yeah, Madam Speaker, we most likely need an interpreter in the House as Senator Muma continues to dispense presentation, because there's been use of a number of words that we do not understand, but we feel are very useful to us. Some of them, the words that she has used in my community, would not be words that you'd use in public, but now she's used them. I'm not able to get their interpretation. She needs to translate for us some of those words. Thank you, Madam.
Senator Muma, you must use understandable and comprehensible parliamentary language for the likes of Senator Beatrice to understand what Chirieto stands for. I equally am suffering the same consequences as Beatrice, Senator Beatrice. I just heard you liberally use the term Chirieto. I come from Mount Kenya region. We don't have such a term. Can you use English to describe, even if you use broccoli to describe what Chirieto is close to? Something that we can comprehend and follow.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Beatrice's complaint and your complaint just makes my point. That if we set a fund aside and allowed Masinda Muliro, Department of History, to do a book that says these were the vegetables among the Idaho, these were the ones among the Isuga, you will get to know what Shirieto means. And that's my point. That's the point I'm actually making. Honorable Speaker, when we establish the museums, there is one point I would like to make. The National Museum should be able to give us accurate information about the national events. Honorable Speaker, after the Mau Mau, some of the Mau Mau veterans took a case to the UK and were compensated, the British government redeployed back some information in our archives. And if you look in those archives, Honorable Senator, Honorable Speaker, you would find that the Mau Mau is erroneously felt to as though they are people from one community. But when you see the list of the people who fought for Uhuru in this country, that list has so many other people from other communities that have never been celebrated because one community has decided to celebrate their own, other communities have not done similarly. So the impression, and it's not to actually fault any community, the impression given to the children who are coming up is that Mau Mau was about one community, when that is not true. But Mau Mau had a list. If you go to that archives, if it is properly resourced, our children will be able to go to the National Archives. They'll be able to see the hundreds of other people who fought for Uhuru in this country. So I think this is a basic law, but as is, it is not able to take us to Canaan. Honorable Speaker, insofar as the culture is concerned,
Senator Kathy Muma, can you describe where is Canaan coming in? Where are we going to be heading when we are going to Canaan? From where?
Honorable Speaker, Canaan for purposes of culture is that right now, culture is whatever anybody says. But if we historically follow, put in place the resources to be able to put all the things I have said in place, to be able to come up with proper recordings, our children, our children's children, our children's children's children will get the same information about the Kikuyu, the Luya, and the others. Honorable Speaker, I would have liked to see this bill also talk about investing in film for Kenyan as a mode of preserving our culture. Honorable Speaker, other countries, other communities, other cultures world over use film and theater to actually communicate the cultural events, their cultural heritage, and their cultural history. It would have been good to also involve an aspect of investing in the Kenya Film Institute, and to actually encourage the setting up of the film industry and theater across the 47 counties and nationally for us to be able to do. Honorable Speaker, what I have added, if it is added to this, we will say we have a rich law that can actually enable us to preserve and to enjoy our culture. I support.
Thank you, Senator Kathy. I want to give a communication from the chair. On a visiting delegation from Rutune Junior Secondary School, Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon, a visiting delegation from Rutune Junior Secondary School in Mukurweini constituency, Nyeri County. The delegation comprises 45 students and 5 teachers who are visiting the Senate for an academic exposition. Honorable Senators, on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I extend a warm welcome to the delegation and wish them a fruitful and enriching visit, and I thank you. I want to welcome Senator Wahome to welcome this group and then proceed on to contribute to this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Indeed, it is not Lutune Junior, it is Lutune Senior, and they combine 2 schools from Mukurweini sub-county.
Apologies for that. It's
thank you very much.
Senior Secondary School.
Well noted, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, why we encourage the young ones, and I think this goes in the spirit of the bill that we're having today, it's because we want them to see, we want them to learn, and we want to invest in them so that when the time comes, Madam Speaker, they'll be able to do what we are doing here. Madam Speaker, it's in such excursions that we inspire the young ones to aspire to become readers tomorrow, and most importantly, Madam Speaker, to make them see what we do, the business we do in this House, how we enact laws, and how we debate in the House, but most importantly, to make them see that this is a House where everybody can make it to this House if they believe in themselves. Madam Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to welcome them. They were in my place, in my residence, we had lunch together, and as they now head home, I want to wish them journey masses. And Madam Speaker, I wish to proceed to support this bill because this is a very timely bill. Madam Speaker, a lot has been said about this bill. We know that we have a richly diversified communities in Kenya. Madam Speaker, in our diversity lies our richness. How I wish, Madam Speaker, that we, the political class, would be able to create more incentives as we enact this bill, create more incentives, Madam Speaker, as Senator Catherine Muma has said, so that we can get many people investing in the preservation of our cultures in form of films, in form of documentaries, Madam Speaker, but most importantly, even in form of restaurants where someone can go and enjoy a rich meal that is prepared in line with the traditions of the Abaru here. Madam Speaker, I heard Senator Catherine Muma use a couple of words that I was saying, that sounds quite good. I would want to know what that is. I would want to know where to eat that. How I wish, Madam Speaker, that we would have somebody to invest around that so that you would have a restaurant that you would walk into and say, today, I want to eat pure Luya dish. Madam Speaker, moving forward, Madam Speaker, we are raising a generation, and that has also been mentioned, of kids who've been seared in mixed marriages, Madam Speaker. We are raising a generation that has lost their cultural attachment because of the nature of the schools they go to, people they associate with, how they've been brought up, and most importantly, Madam Speaker, the curriculum that we are having, Madam Speaker. We used to learn vernacular language that we no longer learn. I doubt, Madam Speaker, that the younger generation, they are able to learn their language or even speak their language fluently. Having said that, Madam Speaker, I know, and it must be mentioned, our richness, and as I've said, lies in the diversity that we have. We should be proud of our culture. We should be proud of our ethnicity. It should not be something negative. It should be something that we should be proud of, Madam Speaker. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I'm always a proud parent when I attend dramas and musical festivals in school and see schools in central Kenya perform culture dances from the Western or from the Nyanza, and this is a way of encouraging, Madam Speaker. Where I feel that we fail our young generation, Madam Speaker, and this bill goes a long way in trying to capture that, is that we do not document this for posterity, Madam Speaker. How I wish that it would be a culture entrenched within our learning institutions that all these dramas and musical festivals are documented and properly archived so that someone could even reach back to them and refer to them even 20, 30, 40 years to come, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as we are aware, the world is moving to become a global village. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we are going to see fusion of cultures, fusion of heritage, and therefore, Madam Speaker, as we look at the heritage from where we come from, it is also imperative that we look at the heritage of where we are going. How do we now preserve the heritage of the young generation who cannot be able to relate with the history of our forefathers? How do we make sure that we merge what we used to do then, what they are doing now for posterity, Madam Speaker? And therefore, I would want to agree that it is important that we also come up with institutions of basic learning that will be teaching some of the basic languages. Madam Speaker, in the CBE education, you will see French as a language. You will see German as a foreign language. How I wish that we would even offer Luya, Kikuyu, Kiluo as a language that one would have a choice of learning, because moving forward, we would want to have somebody who will be able to preserve or even to understand the cultures of these different communities and be taught in school so that for the posterity, we can have at least some points of reference. Madam Speaker, we must, as legislatures, also come up with measures that will ensure that we encourage people, we create incentives for people to invest in these activities, like I said, films, for example, production of documentation, production of books, Madam Speaker, and even preservation of cultural heritage, Madam Speaker. My colleague here from Busia said about the paintings in a certain place. And what effort do we make, Madam Speaker, to ensure that we preserve this for posterity? How are we investing in this, Madam Speaker? You yourself in your contribution, Madam Speaker, did state well. The Lomans did build in the 14th century, and the architect has been preserved until today. What is it that we are doing to preserve our huts that were built in a traditional way? What is it that we are doing, Madam Speaker, to preserve our cultures that were practiced by foreparents? Madam Speaker, what we must do is to ensure that we create not only a fund, but an incentive, Madam Speaker, including tax relief for anybody who invests in an activity that will promote the culture and the heritage of our nation, to be given tax relief so that we can encourage many more people to invest in that. Madam Speaker, it is also imperative that we look at the divergent approaches that we have, and now the cupping culture of new families, and this has been prompted, Madam Speaker, by the intermarriages that is happening across the nation, but most importantly also the academic approach that we have, Madam Speaker. In our time, we used to learn vernacular from standard 1 to standard 4, and therefore every child could read or could speak their vernacular language. Now, Madam Speaker, we have a new approach that puts more emphasis on competence-based, Madam Speaker. We have people who are pursuing arts and creative arts and sciences, and, Madam Speaker, we must, around this also, come up with an approach, entrench it in our curriculum that will ensure that we do not lose the variable culture that we have, and as we encourage the integration of our nation within the East African community, within the global settings, we must also be wary not to lose what we already have, Madam Speaker. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I would want to say the proposal of this bill, Madam Speaker, it is very, very important, but we must go a step further and look at how do we create resources to ensure that we preserve the culture, we make sure that we document it properly, we produce films, Madam Speaker, but most importantly that we also encourage investors, Madam Speaker, who will be able to come up with restaurants, will come up with theaters that will be producing pieces that are meant to show what a particular community is supposed to be doing. But that, having said that, Madam Speaker, it must also not be lost to us that we have a totally new generation that also have their own heritage, that they have developed their own culture. And this, Madam Speaker, we must get away of marrying what they are doing with what our forefathers used to do, so that we can have a platform for the future generation to see how they'll do their things. Madam Speaker, as I wind up, I would want to say that it is very, very important that we promote, but also at national level, as we are looking forward to integrating Kenya in the global arena. Madam Speaker, I support and yield my time, my less of the time, to my colleague. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Wamatinga. Senator Beatrice Akinyi Ogola.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this bill and to say from the word onset that this is a very progressive bill that must be enriched, that must be enlarged, that must be made very comprehensive, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, culture is a way of life, and a way of life need not to be retrogressive. A prominent culture that Kenyans have, especially when we are struck by tragedy, like we just had the tragedy we have where Honorable Ngeno, we lost Honorable Ngeno and a number of Kenyans in one tragic helicopter crash. Madam Speaker, we did not see people mourn as a community. We saw Kenyans mourn together. We mourned the loss of the 6 and people have made standards and they have brought pride into those burials. Madam Speaker, the dead used to be celebrated and with honor, especially in my community. And I know in your communities too, just like birth would be celebrated. And Madam Speaker, I'm talking about those because those are aspects of culture, how culture has transited from one practice to the other. But Madam Speaker, they revolve around the values that we are talking about, of love, of honesty. Madam Speaker, The reason why I say this bill should be enriched, we want to see the aspect of education as being a serious tool of rationalizing our culture and carrying all of us together. Madam Speaker, we know we come from different communities with different cultural practices, but we are looking forward to a Kenyan community. We are looking forward to nationalism. We are looking forward to see Kenyans that are developing one cultural entities that were respected. Look at the elders. In my community, the Luo Council of Elders, and I know a number of communities had. Madam Speaker, I'm a member of the Energy Committee, and when we went to Turkana for the public participation over the Turkana oil, I loved the aspect of the recognition of the people of Turkana of their elders. I only forget the local name by which they were referred. But Madam Speaker, such recognition bring respect, bring order, bring discipline to a people, because you must recognize one or some of your own. Madam Speaker, there are cultural sites all over in our communities. For example, in my community and in my clan, we have the Gor Mahia sites and the natural resources that we have. And Madam Speaker, the communities have a lot of attachment to all these natural resources that they have preserved. Madam Speaker, as I end my presentation and as I support this bill, I must mention something that is very critical, that is developing as a culture in this republic. The culture of hatred of one, the culture of mistrust, the culture of disrespect, the culture of corruption. Madam Speaker, it amuses me that whenever we speak everywhere, each party points at the other as the corrupt. We say so-and-so is corrupt, the other person points at your entity as corrupt, and everybody seems to be talking and castigating corruption. Then as Kenyans, we need to really address this issue of corruption as corrupt. Why don't we as a nation address pointing at the other as corrupt? Why don't we as a nation address this culture, this bad culture of corruption? And Madam Speaker, I end my presentation by saying I support, and I want to say that this bill must be enriched, that as Kenyans we must develop cultures that are useful to us all, that will take us to the next generation. Madam Speaker, I support.
Thank you, Senator Beatrice. The mover of this motion is not in the House right now, so we will defer because there are no other senators wishing to contribute to this motion. So it will be deferred for the mover to reply to the motion. I will give a chance, and first of all take the discretion to reorganize the order paper and give an opportunity to Senator Okiya Omutata to give a notice of motion, though that had been dispensed with. I'm exercising that discretion to allow him to give the notice, and then we will resume back with order number 9.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. My notice of motion is on the provision of IFMIS reports for county governments to the Senate. That aware that Article 96 of the Constitution determines the allocation of national revenue among counties as provided in Article 217, and exercises oversight over national revenue allocated to the county governments. Further aware that in the case of the Senate, the Council of Governors and 6 others, petition number 24 and 27 of There's an error, Madam Speaker. It is giving us 2029. Should not be 2029. I think they will correct it.
What's your point of order, Senator Cherargei?
So, Speaker, in giving of notice as per standing order, orders of the Senate, the giving of notice is read as is, not of ought to be.
What standing order are you using?
Madam Speaker, on the standing order number 1, with your indulgence, Madam Speaker, and then sorry for taking long, Madam Speaker, on the issue of just a moment, Speaker, to appraise myself with on the issue of standing order number 1, which and then there is standing order number 62, and then, Madam Speaker, finally, on the procedure, Madam Speaker, on the procedure of moving of motions, that is standing order 62. Standing order 62, Madam Speaker, and then giving notice, that is standing order 53. Not sorry, 53, Madam Speaker. Can I read?
Proceed to read it.
To read it.
Standing
Sorry.
order number 53.
No. Standing order 60. That is notices of motion.
53 is on Senator's request for statement, so it cannot be applicable
60.
in that.
60, but the standing order I have here, Madam Speaker, is allow me to.
You can proceed. Do you have the
Yeah,
specific one?
the correct one. I don't know why that one is missing. Madam Speaker, it says, standing order number 60, notices of motion, except as otherwise provided by the standing orders, notice shall be given by a senator of any motion which the senator proposes to move. Number 2, before giving notice, a motion shall deliver to the clerk a copy of the proposed motion by the senator. Number 3, if the speaker is of the opinion that any proposed is one infringes, which he has passed through, Madam Speaker, allow me to go to the, a senator giving notice of a motion approved by the speaker shall state its terms to the Senate and indicate whether the original copy received by the speaker has been certified. This one is by party leader or any other, or sponsorship by the Senate, shall have all other, and then notice approved by than this may be given by means of a list, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, in line with standing order number 64, it refers to number 64. Madam Speaker, my only concern, the extrapolation of standing order number 60, is that Senator Okia has confirmed before the House that it is indicated in 2029. So is it the correct order? Because, Madam Speaker, I've read the order paper. I don't know whether colleagues can provide you with the order paper of Thursday. The order paper of Thursday, it says 2029. Further, aware that in the case of the Senate, the Council of 2027 and 20, so this giving of notice, Madam Speaker, is defective. So would it be order understanding order number 1? I wish the clerk would give you. I wish the clerk would give you some space so that I can request. Madam Speaker, looking at the order paper, it indicates that this petition that Senator Okia refers is 2029, which is not true. Which means this notice of motion is fatally defective. Would it be in order request understanding number order number 1? Can it be rectified verbally, or does Senator Okia Omutata needs?
I'm acknowledging that there was an error. That's why I was going to invoke the Speaker's guidance on that error, because we are not into, I think it's a typo. So maybe you could be guided. That's why I was raising with the attention of the Speaker that there was an error in the content.
I'm checking whether standing order 62 could apply moving of motion in an amended form, where the Speaker may permit a senator to move in an amended form a motion of which notice has been given, if in the opinion of the Speaker, the amendment does not materially alter any principle embodied in the motion. Honorable Senator, in view of the fact that it cites a petition number 24 and 27 of 2029 consolidated, that error may need to be corrected. because then the 2029 year is not yet. Yeah, it doesn't exist. So it sounds like a material description of the petition. So it might help for you to amend the notice, which the speaker would be amenable to allow you to take time and amend it, and then it can come back into the order paper on Tuesday.
I think it's not me to amend, is I think the Secretariat, because what I gave had the correct date. But what was presented here, I think there was some oversight. There was a typographical error. So I think it's in order for the correct position to be given.
I guide that you allow the Secretariat to amend it, and
Yes.
then you give that notice on Tuesday.
On Tuesday. Yeah, that's what I
on
wanted.
Tuesday next week.
I'm
So
guided.
Secretariat, please amend that notice on Tuesday so that we do not refer to a petition that is non-existent. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Okia. We can proceed on to the next agenda, that is the Agriculture Produce Minimum Agenda number 9.
Order number 9, the Agricultural Produce Minimum Guaranteed Returns Bill, Senate Bills number 17 of 2025, second reading, resumption of debate interrupted on Thursday, 26th February 2026.
Senator, this resumption of debate, Senator Cherarike Samson, you may proceed and take the mic.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. From the onset, I want to congratulate you for moving ably this bill on the Agriculture Produce Minimum Guarantee Returns Bill 2025. Madam Speaker, I think you continue to distinguish yourself as an astute legislator, following in some of us who are the greatest debaters and legislators on this House, Madam Speaker, and I can give you accolades. There is a song that they say, what a man can do, a woman can do it better. And as the champion of women leadership, women rights, I'm proud that the person who has come to rescue our languishing farmers is none other than a woman leader by the name Senator Veronica Waheti, through this agricultural bill of guarantee minimum returns. Madam Speaker, the farmers of this country are proud of you. From Muranga to Nandi, from Nandi to Mandera, from Oma Bay to Busia, from Wasingishu to Meru, all the 47 county farmers are proud of this bill. This bill will change the fortunes of many farmers. Madam Speaker, in a quick succession, you were the distinguished and one of the best Secretary Generals that the United Democratic Alliance Party have ever had. Madam Speaker, and I remember you came and gave me my nomination certificate after I won overwhelmingly, after vanquishing my opponents in the nominations of UDA in 2022, and you ran the UDA party like a colossus of leadership and a paragon of hope. And I'm happy that today you are proving your leadership. And you saw me today in Maskani, same as a citizen, when you were discussing about the future of UDA. And I know, God willing, in the next in the soonest, you might come back as to continue as the SG of ruling party. The reason I'm bringing you, Madam Speaker, is because you are among the drafters, the thinkers, the projectors, the think tank that came up with United Democratic Alliance manifesto. In the plan, Madam Speaker, one of our selling points to our farmers was guarantee minimum returns. I'm happy you are playing your role by saying, let us implement our manifesto. Madam Speaker, are you aware in the NADCO report, the 10-point agenda, one of the key issues is food security and guarantee minimum returns to our farmers. And that is why may the soul of one of the greatest leaders of all times of this African continent, Kenya, Baba Raila Amolo Odinga, signed the 10-point agenda with the president. And one of the issues was to take care of the interests of farmers. And I'm happy the ODM, and I'm happy I've seen Senator Ogolla, who is a loyal with military precision. Her loyalty is with military precision to the ODM. And they are saying we are looking for power. Wanaweka mawe, sijui mbwekse, wanamswika. So I'm happy Senator is here because when they met as parliamentary group, meeting of ODM, when the management committee of ODM, Central Management Committee met, they have said there is no end point of NADCO report. It is a continuous implementation. And one of the continuous is the legislative intervention. Legislative intervention, we have done elections. By the way, Kenyans were asking her, Madam Speaker, why are we quick to pass laws that look like they take care of the who is who? But today I'm happy. We are discussing the laws of Olopoloi. The Olopoloi of this country, the farmers. Do you know the average age of farmers in this country? Colleagues, is 61 years. It is between 60 and 65. You know, we need to make farming attractive, Madam Speaker, so that our young men, are you aware, Madam Speaker, let me give you a quick statistics so that I drive my point home and dry. Madam Speaker, are you aware 75% of Kenyan population is below 35 years, including your children? I had, and I think, Madam Speaker, we might need to invite Senator Beatrice Ogolla as the guest speaker during the men's conference, Madam Speaker, in 2027, just before election, because I can see she's supporting polygamy. Madam Speaker, you know I'm a product of polygamy. My father married 2 wives. I'm a son to the second wife of my father, the late Simeon Kimutai Meli. And there is my elder mother, they are still surviving, and my own mother, Madam Speaker. And we grew up in a polygamous family. We should respect. You know, Madam Speaker, what I find weird is this Wazungu are telling us to have a mistress is okay, but to have a second wife is wrong. Senator Okiya Mutata must be familiar with this, because he works with most of these people that Senator Okiya Mutata, through the speaker, they tell us it is wrong to have a second wife, but it is right to have a mistress, which is worse. And I think Senator Ogolla should address the men's conference in 2027. I'm just drafting the invitation letter. Because that is what, if you are a man and you are able to take care of more than one, you can take care. And our business in this world, as the Bible says, is to procreate. We must procreate. You can see World War III of Iran and US, many people will die. How will we replace the people? By procreating, giving birth to many more. And by the way, Shah, through Linda Jamii, has provided that if you have Shah, your wife goes and delivers, you get babies, we get population, we move on. And the projection of this country is 50 million by 2050, Madam Speaker, which a half of the population will live in towns. And that is why the president is very keen on affordable housing program. He's keen on food security. If we, Madam Speaker, the reason I'm bringing all this dynamic of family is we need food security. If we can motivate farmers, Madam Speaker, through what you are bringing, guarantee minimum returns, it will be able for the farmers, Madam Speaker, to produce enough food to ensure we are food secure. Madam Speaker, until 2 weeks ago, and we were brought statement of drought. Madam Speaker, I want to blame the National Management Drought Authority. Madam Speaker, you remember the OAG did an audit report that says Kenya needs at least 50 billion to fight the issue of drought crisis in this country. Under the Disaster Management Act, counties must give at least 2% for relief and management services. You saw, Madam Speaker, we had difference. The governors appear before public accounts. Like the governor of Mandera, we were asking him, why would you buy seedlings for 55 million, yet you cannot do water tracking for your people? We were asking the Wajir governor, who is the COG chair, because that COG I normally refer as a gossip club. We were asking her, Ahmed Abdullahi, why would you spend 300 million for foreign travel and office furniture and spend less than 100 million to do water tracking in Wajir, yet there is a drought? That is the issue. We need food security, and that is why, Madam Speaker, I want to believe. Why is it that as a country, we don't have a strategic grain reserve? It is because our farmers are not motivated through guarantee minimum returns. Because it's the farmer who is doing mangoes and I was in a parish called Kibirigo, here in Muranga. If the farmer is not motivated to go and take care of avocado, mangoes, tea, maize in my place, and many other food, Madam Speaker, how will you get the strategic grain reserve for the country? So this bill is timely. It is God-sent, Madam Speaker. This is the leadership we need. And I want to tell you, Madam Speaker, 60% of any families, including our clerks and everybody in this room, including ours, 60% of every family's budget goes to food. 60%, Madam Speaker. 60% of anybody's income is food. Then I think 20 to 30% is rent, Madam Speaker. So Kenyans are literally living hand to mouth. And farmers are worse, Madam Speaker. When you are farming, the president has given us subsidized fertilizer from 7,000 to 2,500. But I want to believe counties should do what we call last mile distribution of fertilizer. I want to see it in Homa Bay. I want to see it in Nandi. But you know what we're having the problem, Madam Speaker, is we're having absentee governors. They no longer care. The president has brought all the fertilizer to the depot of National Cereals and Produce Board. It is the county governments, because I graduated evolved, to do last mile distribution of fertilizer in Muranga. Your governor is spending more time doing cabros in Muranga than the real thing. My governor is globetrotting, going to where Jesus Christ was born, as opposed as to providing farmers to Kipchunu, Madam Speaker, or providing farmers in Trinidad, last mile distribution of fertilizer, Madam Speaker. Our governors are busy doing politics, Madam Speaker. Even you have seen in Homa Bay, the deputy governor has resigned, Oyugi Magwanga, Madam Speaker, because people have failed. The governor there is an absentee governor. While we appreciate what she is doing under broad-based, that one should not disenfranchise the people of Homa Bay from getting services, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, and therefore, as I drive the point home, the issue of guarantee minimum returns, as I go to the bill, I'm happy with the definition of comprehensive cost. Like farm inputs. Seeds are expensive, Madam Speaker. We thank the president for fertilizer. But can you believe 2 kilos of maize seedlings from Kenya Seed is 600? Yet Kenya Seed is in Kitale, less than 30 kilometers from my county. Yet the seedlings are expensive. We don't import. Madam Speaker, do you see the paradox? While the president has made sure fertilizer is subsidized, the Kenya Seed is still selling seeds very expensively. It is very costly, Madam Speaker. Even as we talk, although we have a challenge of DAP, there is 23, and Mavuno, which is provided. So the issue of herbicides, pesticides, Madam Speaker, we have been told that there are pesticides and acaricides and herbicides that we use in Kenya that has been banned in the US because it's cancer causing. How many of our farmers have been exposed to cancer causing, Madam Speaker? It's very unfortunate. I can see a number of clerks also are farmers, and that is why they are agreeing with me. Madam Speaker, the issue of fertilizer, we have agreed. Livestock production, including animal feeds and stuff. Madam Speaker, if you are a farmer of dairy, the most expensive feed is animal feed. Can you believe we are exporting animal feed from Uganda? Even eggs. We should be embarrassed as a country. I want to challenge you, Madam Speaker, and I know you are a farmer. If you see the cost of running dairy farming, you will be shocked. It's costly. It's too expensive, Madam Speaker. And therefore, we must give cushion. Because if we have to get animal feed from Uganda, what are we doing? Even drugs, Madam Speaker, for the ones to deworm our animals and many others. So I'm happy. In your definition, you have improved it as a comprehensive cost. Labor, Madam Speaker, you hire laborers, they do farm laborers. You hire one in the morning, by afternoon, they are gone. You hire one in the evening, by morning, they are gone. So the issue of labor cost is still, because if today, Madam Speaker, if we are to implement the minimum wage of our laborers in our farms, no one will be able to afford them. Because you and me know we pay 5,000, 10,000, 6,000. But if you have to go for minimum wage, including statutory deductions, one laborer might need 20,000. Madam Speaker, another issue is fuel. The issue of fuel is still up. We are aware that it's an ongoing war of Iran and Iraq, Iran and US. Madam Speaker, you have been told there is a blockage of access of fuel. So we expect it to go up, Madam Speaker, because we have subsidized fertilizer. The seeds are expensive. The fuel is expensive. And then you have to lease the land. The issue of irrigation and machinery. Madam Speaker, I want to appeal to the government and county governments. Why don't they give us tax exemption for farm machinery? So that the cost of production is lower as opposed as the cost of output, Madam Speaker, so that we get profit. The reason most Kenyans shy from going to farming, especially my generation, is because the high cost of production. I doubt, Madam Speaker, if young people, I don't know who is young in this room, maybe Mercy, your clerk, could be among the youngest in this room. I doubt if they can go today and agree to do farming. They might not, because the cost of production is still high. Madam Speaker, you are today in the issue of water. And Muranga is I don't know why Muranga there is a lot of problems. The governor there has completely, he cannot run that county. Because how can he allow the Water Resource Authority to impose, Madam Speaker, domestic use water from 50 cents has been increased to 2 shillings and 50 cents. That is quite expensive. And you know Muranga people use a lot of water. Go to Mwea. One of the largest irrigation in this country is Mwea. They are now from 50 cents, they are paying 2 shillings for public use, Madam Speaker. Under the regulations that we pass, and that is why I'm challenging the Senate to come up with a motion to nullify these regulations, because water will be expensive, Madam Speaker. Here in Nairobi, there is water rationing. Imagine the water that you are paying 50 cents by cubic meter is now 2 shillings and 50 cents. How many people in Muguru Kwanjenga will be able to buy? I agree Nairobi, Madam Speaker, is dysfunctional. Under Governor Sakaja, he used to tell us in a walk, but it looks like it does not work. Go to here, Wayaki Way, there is cabbage. Go here, club around about, there is cabbage. Everywhere you drive in this Nairobi, there is cabbage. And I want to thank the president for coming to rescue Nairobi by injecting 80 billion. Because Nairobi should look like a capital city among the cities in the world, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I saw the MCS led by your friend, I know the lady who say they want to move an impeachment motion. And I'm challenging them, don't fear! Bring the motion. We will deal with the governor once and for all and allow him to go and do other things, Madam Speaker. Because Nairobi is choking under cabbage. Madam Speaker, when it rains, Nairobi look like River Nile. The drainage is poor, everything is poor. Like a place called Litein in Kericho, Madam Speaker. When it rains in this Nairobi, you can't move. Yet the county government of Nairobi has received close to 150 billion in the last 4 years, including their own source revenue, Madam Speaker. I want to challenge the MCS because I know some of them of your friends. Let them bring the impeachment motion. We'll do the needful, Madam Speaker. Allow people who are incompetent to go home and allow Kenyans to do other things. Even farm rent, Madam Speaker, we rent expensively. Post-harvest handling cost, I agree with you, Madam Speaker. I want to add one word. You should have put livestock insurance as part of also guarantee minimum returns. And even post-harvest losses. Madam Speaker, it is not fair. Here in Nyandarua, we have so many potatoes, but Kenyans are dying 500 kilometers in Mandera, Marsabit, or Garissa, or Isiolo. It is very unfair. We have enough food in this country. Madam Speaker, I want to say this. A country that cannot feed its own population of 3.3 million Kenyans is not a good country, Madam Speaker. They say a nation is known by how they treat their vulnerable, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, role of county government, I think we have agreed with that. I can see my light is on, Madam Speaker. Let me give you the numbers, Madam Speaker, to enrich. I know we can still do this in the third reading. I can see coffee is now 81 shillings per kilo. Tea, Madam Speaker, which is still a problem. I know Mount Kenya, you are lucky. Under KTDA, us, we are not lucky. We are being given 23 shillings per kilo, which is still very bad, Madam Speaker. The issue of maize, we still want 5,000 per 90 kilos, but we want it to be reduced to 50 kilos by 3,500. Madam Speaker, stabilization fund of milk should be 50 shillings per liter, so that we inject at least 2 billion to the milk sector to stabilize what we call price stabilization, which is under guarantee minimum returns. On the issue of macadamia, I'm happy. It has grown from 25 shillings per kilo to 100 shillings per kilo for macadamia farmers, especially. Madam Speaker, for Senator Ogola, who comes, and Senator, the incoming president, maybe by 2050, he might be my running mate, Senator Okiya Mutata, the sugarcane per tonnage, and I know Mount Kenya will support me overwhelmingly courtesy of you. Madam Speaker, it is now moved from 4,500 per ton to 5,300 per ton. We need stabilization of prices so that our farmers, when they go to farm, under guarantee minimum returns, Madam Speaker, they can be able to be sure, and going into the future, Madam Speaker, the farmers will be able to reap. And I can assure you, Madam Speaker, if we pass this bill, these are some of the bills that will make you be elected. And I have encouraged you, don't go for women rep. Those are women who have never had opportunity. Leave them to the first timers to run for women rep. Don't run for Senate. Can you go for the governor? So that you can implement your bill. And you know, House of Mumbi, They are proud of your women leaders. I know there are communities, but I think the Luo community has broken the fast because they have now a woman governor. Even Kalenjin, may her soul rest, I know you are friend Dr. Joyce Labos. So why don't you go for governor? Usitishwe. Just go for governor, Madam Speaker, so that you can be given opportunity to implement this bill. We want to see, I'm told when women are in leadership, there is normally less corruption and less violence. Because women are very careful in what they do, and they don't bring goons in their meetings. Unlike some of us, I'm not saying I have goons, but I'm saying unlike some of my male species, not the female species, Madam Speaker. So this guarantee minimum returns bill, Madam Speaker, is a game changer. And I hope when the leadership of the House, both in the national, and I want to appeal to the National Assembly, we are tired of them declaring our bills money bill as per Article 103. Is it 110.3? I think it's 110.3, Article 110. Madam Speaker, the National Assembly will just run and say, this bill is money bill. They did with my livestock produce bill. They declared money bill. But National Assembly are plenarizing our issue. Madam Speaker, they declare money bill. After 1 week, they are republishing your bill in another name. Madam Speaker, we must, and I think as a House, if a bill like this for farmers, for even sec, there is no farmer for Senate, there is no farmer for county, there is no farmer for national government, there is no farmer for National Assembly. Why would they should be saying, yes, it is a money bill, but because it is in the interest of the common good of the country, let us pass this bill. And that is why I'm appealing to colleague senators, let us pass this bill. Let us support this bill for the benefit of our farmers. I know my farmers in Nandi will be proud when they have stabilization in the prices, Madam Speaker. Just add me 30 seconds, Madam Speaker. 30 seconds? 30 seconds. Thank you, Madam Speaker. That's why I'm saying my farmers in Nandi will be proud. Madam Speaker, and I want to appeal to our colleague senators. Whenever you are Senator Ojenda, Senator Metu Anonyonga, don't go and disparage Senate. You don't go and tell the people your house is leaking the roof, Madam Speaker. You defend your house because the Senate is there. And I want to appeal the way Senator Speaker Waitangula did at the National Assembly. You should do it by calling out colleagues who go and disparage the Senate in the media. Madam Speaker, with those many remarks, I wish you well with this bill. May the Lord guide you. May the Lord protect you. May they prevent evils who want to declare it a money bill. In the name of Jesus Christ, I yield back, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Cherargei, for those very heartful remarks. Thank you. Senator Ogola Beatrice Akinyi.
Madam Speaker, I rise to support this bill and particularly also congratulate you for your vision. And Madam Speaker, because agriculture particularly is about food security. Madam Speaker, food is a basic need. And Madam Speaker, when you go to our constitution, every Kenyan deserves to have some food. And this can only be attained by the enhancement of agriculture, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, allow me to mention something from what Senator Cherargei talked about water and about Nairobi County, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to go on record in supporting the collaboration in the approach of the implementation of urban services in Nairobi County. Madam Speaker, Nairobi County is about every Kenyan. Now rains are beginning, and Madam Speaker, you'll see most of the roads blocked. Madam Speaker, the Constitution talks about 47 counties and one national government. There is nowhere the national government would work if it is not in a county. And so, Madam Speaker, all the resources, the 8 billion that is going to be sunk in approving the urban services in Nairobi County is our public funds. And so, to me, there is nothing wrong in Governor Sakaja as the governor of Nairobi and the president of this country, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, coming together to address the challenges of the urban issues in this city, because we all benefit from it. Madam Speaker, we want to see better parking services in this city. Madam Speaker, we want to see environmental issues, measures put in place in this city. Madam Speaker, you know the UN, and we have been proudly saying that UN headquarters, a number of the bodies are moving to Nairobi. How would this city look like if those services are not improved? Madam Speaker, the services, the urban services, like stormwater drainage that we have in Nairobi, was done for the populations that were there then. For me, I would be proud. Whoever does it, I may not care, but I'm more concerned that we end up with good services in this city for the benefit of all of us. Madam Speaker, I now come back to the bill. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, as I've stated, that we need food. A county that is able to feed its members is a healthy country. And when a country is healthy, then it becomes a productive country. Madam Speaker, it is not fair that there are other parts of this country where people go without basic food. But Madam Speaker, if agriculture enhances, it will not only lead us to have food, but will also lead to income generations to the many populations that we have. Madam Speaker, even the issue of unemployment will be addressed. Madam Speaker, some of the challenges we have in agriculture is the aging farming population. Madam Speaker, and yet a number of our youths don't have jobs. And Madam Speaker, I've often had conversation with younger people back at home in my community, and you see a number of them that want to venture into farming, Madam Speaker. But because of the lack of support of advisory services to our people, the lack of extension officers, Madam Speaker, at the county levels, then these young people do not know in which way they can get into agriculture in a more profitable way. Because then they only go back to their traditional farming methods, which are not beneficial, and soon then they run into lack of interest. Madam Speaker, in the communities back in our counties, farmers are on their own. Madam Speaker, when we were growing up, there were extension officers that were moving in motorcycles. They knew when to visit farmers. They knew when to advise farmers. Farmers were educated on when the rains are coming. Madam Speaker, like now, there have been unprecedented heavy rains in some of our regions, and farmers are in a mess. They don't know what to do and when to do it. And this is the work of extension officers. Madam Speaker, you wonder, Kenyans made it very clear that the functions were devolved as per the interests of Kenyans. Key among them was agriculture, because they knew they wanted the operations of agriculture closer to the people. And that's why this function was devolved. Just as health was devolved, water was devolved, and a number of them, because Kenyans knew they wanted somebody that was managing these services closer to them, that would know their needs in real time and support them to better these services. Madam Speaker, as we talk about this bill, we also must talk about modernization that would help the farmers get better skills, get information, real-time information out of research. We must invest in research to get the modern ways of farming. We must also look at the market. When finally farmers get their produce, where do they take this produce? They must take care of the incentives. Madam Speaker, why food security is also very critical to me is because you run around and you see the urban poor. Madam Speaker, the urban poor are a critical, important group that must be looked into in this country. There are people who sometimes only have one opportunity to get a plate of food, And at other times, they do not have. Because, Madam Speaker, right in our communities, we have social networks. If you miss this in this household, you are able to go to a brother's place, you are able to go to a mother-in-law's place, you are able to go to a neighbor's and get some helping. But here, in the urban areas, Madam Speaker, there is no such networks. So, Madam Speaker, I support this, and we want to encourage our counties that they must go by the standards that are expected by getting at least 10% of their resources going to agriculture. Madam Speaker, the last briefing we had from the Ministry of Agriculture while we were at the retreat, it was only one county that does that. The rest of the counties do not care about what they put. They are only depending on some donor funding or donor activities. Madam Speaker, there is no shortcut to enhancing agriculture. Our governors, our counties must go full throttle in investing in agriculture to boost food security and to ensure that agricultural practices are consistent with the times that we are. Madam Speaker, look at the time, and I want to stop there as I support it and to enrich this bill and to give opportunity to a number of my colleagues that are waiting. Madam Speaker, I support.
Thank you, Senator Beatrice, for those contributions and consideration of your colleagues in the Senate. Senator Okia Omutata.
Madam Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the Agricultural Produce Minimum Guaranteed Returns Bill of 2025, which you have sponsored. I congratulate you for this good bill and hope it will see the light of day. Madam Speaker, this bill falls under the category of laws that are called the minimum support price laws, which seek to protect a sector of the economy or of the country which is productive from manipulation by middlemen and stuff like that. So it's an important and timely bill which needs to see which needs to be given its opportunity. One of the things I experienced in the reports, I've got an exploratory committee on my presidential campaign which is going around. And one of the things that has come out from the preliminary report was that many farmers, especially in the coffee and the tea sectors, were asking for this kind of law, are asking for when will it be possible for the government to guarantee them a price or even to buy this produce in bulk and ensure that even during gluts, when there's too much produce, they are not at the mercy of the middlemen and maybe the mercy of the market forces. So ultimately, this law goes back on the capacity of the government to, first of all, identify, like India has done, which are these strategic crops that require support from the state, and what minimum prices are set, and how they are computed, and the capacity of government itself to buy. Because it may not be viable to demand that you must buy a kilogram of maize at 100 shillings, and there's a glut of maize on the market, but the government itself is not buying at 100 shillings, and there's a middleman who comes in and says, I'll buy your maize at 50 bob instead of it going to rot. So the government must really invest in these products, in this law, and I think we should reinforce the provision for strategic reserves. Maybe a strategic reserve, or like some have done with, especially the buyers in the West have done with cocoa. They have bought so much cocoa that whatever happens in the cocoa market, it may not be able to influence or to affect immediately the global market. So maybe we need the government to come up with a structure of how it can buy some of this produce and keep it and be able to distribute it in a way that the farmer who is providing the who is producing the crop is not disadvantaged. But another way would also be to intervene in the market of inputs. We should not leave it to the market forces to influence inputs. There should be deliberate government intervention to secure equality inputs. And I can remember the days of the Kenya Farmers Association when they were able to control inputs in agriculture, that the fertilizer was certified, the seed was certified, and it was very difficult for players outside the network to introduce whatever they wanted. So these minimum bills provide income security and stability for farmers, which is very important, and that way you are assured of production.
Honorable Senators, I want to use the discretion in Standing Order 34A to add an additional 10 minutes. 34-2A to add an additional 10 minutes. We can proceed, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The other thing that the bill will do is, apart from income security and stability, once you have income security and stability, then you are encouraging production and food security. People will be able to produce, sure that they will be able to sell and make returns, make some benefits. So it also protects the farmer from exploitation. One thing you'll see, Madam Speaker, like where I come from in Busia, maybe in the not in the farming, but in the fish industry, you'll find there's a game that's sometimes played whereby middlemen come and they don't buy the fish as they land. They wait until late in the evening when the fishermen have no option because there's no cold storage. Then the fishermen are forced to sell their fish at a throwaway price or risk the fish going bad because, as you know, the shelf life of fresh fish is very, very short. They rot very fast. So to avoid those kind of situations is that if you have got a proper law like this one, protecting farmers from exploitation, it will go a long way. It also has got broader economic and social impacts. When it is made binding, legally binding, and punishing those people who deliberately go to buy below the market price, it will enhance price stability for products. As you know, farmers are at a major, major disadvantage that if you drive through from Malaba, as you drive towards Eldoret, you come through Bungoma County, you come to a place like Bukembe, you find people selling very huge bananas at a throwaway price. When you come to Nairobi and you look at the same banana, you'll find that maybe they are selling a bunch of bananas for a price of 5 fingers of the same banana in Nairobi. So you find that the middlemen have come in and created bottlenecks for these people to are unable to be able to go and sell direct to the consumer, but they suppress the price to a point whereby the farmer really is a loser. With a law like this, it will be possible to make it to control those middlemen and ensure that the produce of the farmer is sold at a price that will give them the returns they need to continue producing and also to improve their livelihoods. You want to speak? So because my brother would like to speak, I would say that there are broad economic returns and social impacts, but the viability challenges are there, and there will be need to invest a bit of time on what challenges are likely to arise and how to address them. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support the bill, and thank you for bringing it to us.
Thank you, Senator Okia. Senator John Methu.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for graciously extending the time to allow us make our comments. You know, last time, Madam Speaker, we were with you here, and I was the last on queue, and our time was spent, so I was not able to make my contribution. And
if you come a little earlier, you'll have a whole 15 minutes.
Yeah. You remember, Speaker, that day I was here early enough, but my colleagues had queued before me. Madam Speaker, I've just been sadly informed that one of our colleagues, Senator for Kiambu, Karongo Dhango, has just lost his mother, Marusia. So
sorry, our deepest condolences to Senator Karungo and his family.
Yes, yes, and that's just what I've been informed just now. Now, Madam Speaker, I rise to support this piece of legislation, which, in my opinion, is a very, very brilliant thought from yourself, Madam Speaker. On my way here, I listened to one of the senators who spoke of the work that you did when you were serving as the Secretary General of the party that I have been elected on. I'm very careful on the choice of words. The party that I have been elected on, the UDA party. And this forms the foundation upon which we actually formed our manifesto. Kenya is an agricultural economy, and so therefore, we must anchor and we must support our farmers so that we make agriculture fashionable. The reason why, Madam Speaker, it is very difficult. You know, these days when you hear people looking and creating employment opportunities, they always want to make it look like the only jobs that can be, commercially viable, or the only jobs that look lucrative, the only jobs that look fashionable are white-collar jobs, Madam Speaker. But we must make agriculture fashionable. We must make it lucrative. Madam Speaker, I have spoken to you in person when we were speaking about this particular bill, and I will tell you of the reservations and where I think we as the Senate need to panel-beat this bill so that it will live to the aspirations, the very aspirations that you had when you formulated this particular bill. I know we or you, as the mover of this bill or the owner of this particular bill, you are working on a very tight edge so that our colleagues do not hang on the Article 114 of the Constitution and call this one a money bill. But, Madam Speaker, before then, let me just make one quick observation on the establishment of a county minimum guarantee committee. First, I agree that we must get a county minimum guarantee committee so that first it can agree on the crops that are for that particular county and the ones that qualify. And Madam Speaker, this is such a critical thing that must be done, because if you look at a county like our county, Nyandarua is an agricultural county first, but most of our agriculture is horticulture. It is highly perishable. And one of the things that we must address, Madam Speaker, I wonder whether many people who actually eat potatoes in Nairobi appreciate that potatoes go bad in less than 5 days. If you harvest your potatoes and you're not able to sell them in 7 days, they all have gone bad. Unfortunately, this is the tragedy of the people of Nyandarua, because all the produce that we grow, potatoes, cabbages, carrots, I don't know how to say minji in English. Yeah, peas. I don't know whether they're cowpeas or they're just peas. No, they are French beans, if I'm not wrong. I think they're French beans. Or French beans is mishiri.
They are not French beans, they are green peas.
Okay, they are green peas. And then even that French bean is grown in Nyandarua, that mishiri. All these produce is highly perishable. And what the kind of suffering that is faced by the people of Nyandarua, the county that I represent, for example, is so dire such that, Madam Speaker, we have to sell our produce at throwaway price because we can't retain that particular produce. Once it's ready, we have to harvest. Once we have harvested, it has to go to the market at the earliest opportunity. Now, for example, Madam Speaker, a 50 kg potato sack in Nyandarua today is retailing at 1,200. You can imagine such a painful thing. But on this establishment of the county minimum guarantee committee, I've seen the number of chief officers who have been proposed to be in that particular committee. I think I would want to add quickly that in the event there is a chief officer for agriculture and a different chief officer for livestock, then both should be able to, we should be able to do an amendment so that we can include one or both, so that we can include both. Now, my reservation on this bill, Madam Speaker, agriculture, according to the 4th schedule of the Constitution of Kenya, is a devolved function. Even as we try and create a pool of the money that will be given to farmers so that we can cushion them, I find that we are going back to the same path of the county, without necessarily looking at where money is retained. Agriculture being a devolved function, Madam Speaker, it does not make sense to me as to why. Now, I've seen that the budget policy statement for 2026-2027, the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture is requesting that his ministry is given 75.5 billion. If you look at the budgets of all the counties, for example, none of the counties has more than maybe 100 or even 200 million, or even 300 million, for example, for agriculture alone, Madam Speaker. So therefore, if you are to put together all that money that is meant to give artificial insemination, that is meant to give seeds, that is meant to give all these services, agricultural services, Madam Speaker, it cannot go more than 1.5 billion. It is out of this 1.5 billion that, because we have 47 counties, if each county is setting aside about 300 million, that would be about 1.5 billion, Madam Speaker. We must go back to this national path. There must be some money that is coming from out of this 75.5 billion, Madam Speaker. We must get some money. And, you know, Madam Speaker, it will be very easy because this is money that can be ring-fenced. And if we are to live to the manifesto of the UDA government, the party that have been elected on, we had not promised the people of Kenya that this minimum guaranteed return will be a preserve of the county governments alone, Madam Speaker. There must be some money that will be ring-fenced from the national coffers, Madam Speaker, and this money will be, you know, right now, we have money that we give as conditional grant for FROCA. There are specific functions that are supposed to be catered for by that particular fund, Madam Speaker. So therefore, there must be some money. We must see it in the budget of the national government that this is the money that we have set aside so that we can cushion our farmers, so that our farmers can be able to know that when we grow this, or rather, when we engage ourselves in this particular endeavor, this is the minimum that we shall get when we engage ourselves in this endeavor. Madam Speaker, if we leave it to the county governments, it will be a question of +1, -1, which is just 0. Because the budgets they have are quite squeezed. And you don't expect, Madam Speaker, that they will appropriate especially money that they use for recurrent, and we imagine that this money they will appropriate it to, I'm winding up, Madam Speaker, they will appropriate it to be in the budget for the minimum guaranteed returns, Madam Speaker. We must introduce an amendment to this bill, and I want to persuade you, Madam Speaker, we must introduce an amendment to this bill, Madam Speaker, so that we can have some money that will be set aside by the Ministry of Agriculture, and then this money will be saved and will be for ensuring that we cushion our farmers. I know our time is gone, Madam Speaker, and since I had also already persuaded you personally, I think I would want to persuade you that we move that amendment so that this bill will actually be a bill that can be implemented. Asante sana.
The mover of this bill, who apparently is the chair of this session today, will reply when the bill is next scheduled in the order paper, because time is up. Honorable Senators, it's now 6:40 p.m., and having concluded the business for which I extended the hours of sitting, pursuant to Standing Order 34-2A, the Senate stands adjourned until Tuesday, 10th March 2026 at 2:30 p.m. Thank you.